and this meal tasted as if my mom had made it. Tears flooded my eyes as a lifetime of memories triggered by this food rushed to my head and heart. 14 years ago, I had no way of knowing this was just the start of my food journey. That's it. So here's
Beautiful.
like a thali picture, which is all the food that we made that day and remembered my mom. So just one.
Fantastic. So is that what sparked your interest in cooking?
Yeah,
Your
was
mother?
my
Yeah.
mother. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So she was an amazing woman. We growing up as kids, she was a home cook, a homemaker. She did not work, so she used to be at home and she used to make like lunches and dinners and a breakfast, fresh breakfast every morning. And then when we would come back from school at 4 o'clock, there would be like an amazing snack waiting for us, my brother and I. So, and that too, it was a fresh snack, not a packet snack
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
for my kids nowadays. So it was, yeah, it was amazing. The things she cooked. I would have friends over any time of the day, and she would just quickly whip up a meal in like within an hour. And my friends would love coming to my place because, of course, she made amazing food. So
Right.
yeah,
Yeah.
and
Just cooking off the top of her head. She just had all the recipes in her head.
she was taught by her mother.
Yeah.
So my grandma's an amazing cook. She's 92 years old and she still cooks.
Fantastic. That's
Yeah,
great.
she loves to cook.
So
Yeah. And yeah, and that's what essentially sparked my interest in cooking. I started cooking when I was like 10 years old. My mom got me into the kitchen and she's like, okay, now you have to help me with all the cooking. And here are the spices. And this is how we make these simple foods at home. And yeah, that was the beginning of my food journey.
and so when did you decide to write a cookbook then? And why did that come up?
Yeah.
Unless you started at 10.
So I always had an interest in cooking because of my mother, and I used to, and she was an excellent baker too. We had this little oven at home, and she would bake tons of cookies, cakes. All our birthday cakes were made by her, and that's why I love baking too. And I wanted to incorporate all of that into a cookbook. And she passed away about 17 years ago, and I was like, this will be my tribute to her, writing a cookbook in her memory. So that's what made me write this cookbook and bring it to life. And it becomes like a legacy for my kids and spread the knowledge of Indian cooking, specifically Gujarati cooking. Because my grandparents hail from Gujarat, which is on the west coast of India. I'm from Mumbai, but they hail from Gujarat, and it's the style of cooking is vegetarian slash vegan. um, very simple dishes with like few spices, few ingredients, very tasty food.
Very nice. Well, it kind of gets to my next question about what the cookbook is about. Like, what is Mumbai Modern, though? So it's the vegetarian. It's this combination of the Mumbai and the Gujarati kind of cooking. But what else is going on?
Yeah, so my family hails from Gujarat, my grandparents, but my mom was born in Uganda. So because my grandparents migrated to Uganda, and she was born there. So there is African influence in the cooking as well. And then she moved to Mumbai and she got married to my dad. And that's how I was born in Mumbai. So it's an amalgamation of foods influenced by my grandma, my mother, and then I'm in the US. So I'm cooking things with the beautiful California produce that we are exposed to. So that is incorporated into my cooking. And I have my own versions of dishes that I make for my kids, for my teenagers now. But that's what the cookbook is about. It's about three continents: the UK, India, and or Africa, India, and California, US. Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
What was the biggest challenge while writing it?
So I wrote this cookbook during COVID, and I was working full time. My kids were schooling from home because of COVID. And that time they were 8 and 10. So that was, I think, the biggest challenge, just having the kids home. But the thing, what I did was I tried to make it fun, get them involved. They were my taste testers. So when I was repeating recipes and making all these delicious things, they got a different thing to eat every day. So I think they were happy with that.
Yeah, that's not
Yeah,
a terrible job. Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
all right. The challenge for you is also probably the best part for them. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And then the photography was another challenge because usually when you write a cookbook, if you're not involved in the entire photography, you usually have a food photographer who's shooting for you, and then you go on studio on their site,
Mhm.
and then you spend like about 10 days with the photographer in a studio shooting all the recipes, and you have a food stylist who's making all the food and styling it. And so imagine the cookbook has about 117 recipes. So you're cooking 117 recipes in a duration of 10 days. Um, so although this cookbook has been shot half by me and half by photographer,
Hmm.
so I did not get the chance to go to the studio because of COVID again. And I feel that would have been like a fantastic experience just to learn uh, a new angle of how photographers shoot food.
Yeah, yeah. Well, the next one.
Next one, yes.
You'll have to go in, yeah. What was your favorite recipe to make out of all of those?
I have a lot of favorite recipes, and I can just showcase some of them
Please.
um, from the cookbook. So I make a lot of jams because again, we are exposed to this fantastic uh, California fruit. So I have an amazing apricot and saffron jam in the cookbook, which is perfect to make at this time of the year. So and a strawberry hibiscus, which is again another perfect recipe to make this time of the year. And I made this is one of the recipes which uses the jam, which is the peacock macarons. So I
Mhm.
made them like peacocks, peacock feathers. So it's one of
Yeah.
my favorite recipes that I created for the cookbook. The filling is like an apricot and saffron jam buttercream, and it's quite
Wow.
delicious. Yeah,
Yeah,
uh,
sounds good.
yeah, yeah. Thank you. And then
Yeah.
there is the Thandai shortbread cookies, which are favorite with anybody and everybody who tastes them. It's made out of like a Thandai powder, which recipe is also in the cookbook. It's got nuts and spices and nutmeg, cardamom, cloves, almond, pistachio, saffron. It has all those spices and nuts, and then you grind it to make this powder. I gift that powder during the holiday season too to folks and give them the recipe from the cookbook and tell them you can make this recipe by yourself and make cookies and give it to people. So it makes like it
Yeah.
makes for a good holiday gift uh,
It's
for folks.
fantastic.
So yeah, and amongst the savory recipes, I have simple recipes, which is one of my favorites, and I'm trying to find it. Oh, I have an appetizer, which is the aloo tikki arancini. My kids love this.
Mm.
It's made with it's arancini, which is made out of risotto, fried risotto balls, which is Italian. So I did a fusion, and that's where the modern part comes in, and infused potatoes in it and Indian spices in it to make it like an really delicious Italian Indian spiced ball, if you may call
Wow, wow. That's fantastic. Yeah.
it. Yeah.
Um, I personally love cooking myself. I've never really tried to do too many dishes that are, Indian or Indian inspired.
Right.
Do you have any tips on where to start? How to get started with
Yeah.
this? Besides getting a gift from you for some spices already mixed up and
Yeah.
powders.
So I have like you need to start with this. You start
Okay.
with an Indian masala dabba, which has like the basic spices, which is uh, cumin seeds. There's mustard seeds. There's turmeric. Salt is whatever salt you need
Right.
salt. There's garam masala, which is another combination of spices that's ground up. And then
Hmm.
you have cumin, coriander powder, which is usually separate, but in the Gujarati culture, my mom used to mix it together in equal parts, and she used to keep it in the dabba. So that's what I do as well. And then the red chili powder. And you need these basic spices, and The dried whole spices would be good to have as well, like um, I would say like cloves, cardamom. Those are some of the spices that you need to have in your closet, so in your pantry. Yeah.
That's fantastic. Sorry, some visitors. Um, and you can kind of you have those like those basic spices. You can do a lot of
You can
different
do basic
dishes.
Indian cooking, and then if you go to the Indian store, what the dish we are going to make today is
Mhm.
pav bhaji, which is a very famous, popular roadside food. It's a street food from Mumbai, and it has pav bhaji masala. So I essentially just buy this from the Indian grocery store. I don't make it myself. Some things you just don't want to make yourself. Like it's
Right.
okay to buy it from the store. They have spice mixes in the Indian store. So you have biryani masala or pav bhaji masala. You even get the thandai masala, the one that I explained right now, to
Right.
make the cookies. But I love making it myself because it's so fragrant and people love it. Like
Yeah.
whoever's tried it has loved it. So it's one to try. It's a to try.
Fantastic. Fantastic.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, thank you. Do you have anything more you want to add before we get into the demo?
Yeah, there's one recipe that I
Yes.
highly recommend that everybody should try is this caramelized onion samosa tart, which is a really easy recipe and very popular during the holidays. So that is a recipe that folks should definitely try. Super delicious, and it's got like I add like fontina cheese on the base of the puff pastry. Super delicious, very
Yeah.
easy.
Do you have, we just had a question come in. Do you have a brand of spices that you recommend?
Um, Yeah, it can be confusing. I would say like MDH or
Mhm.
Badshah is good. BADSHAH uh,
Okay.
or MDH. Those are the ones that are
The kind of the
preferable.
higher quality ones.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. They're good. And of course, if you're looking for just the singular spices. I mean, those have like the combined spices, which are really good. But then if you're looking for singular spices, I recommend Diaspora Co., which is a great company. They source authentically from farmers in India. So they're really good. And there's another brand called Spicewala, which I'm a fan of too. So yeah, those are the spices that I like.
Okay. Fantastic. But there's a few more questions coming in, but I think right now, if you want to get to the cooking and
Sure.
does that work for you? Okay, fantastic.
The recipe I'm going to make today is Pav Bhaji Sliders, which is you can see the picture here. I'm not going to make the carrot salad. I'm just making the bhaji. It's called the bhaji. Pav means bread. It comes from the Portugal word pão. Uh, it was called pão. It's a Portugal word. It's derived from a
Mm-hmm.
Portugal word because
Interesting.
Mumbai was a Portugal colony,
Yeah.
Portuguese colony. Sorry. So it's this recipe is one of the easiest recipes to start if you want to start off Indian cooking. It literally has two spices, which is the pav bhaji masala, which I showed earlier, and you can buy it at the Indian grocery store, and red chili powder. That's it. You don't add any other spices. Super simple. It was the first recipe that my brother learned to make when he was going off to when he was coming from Mumbai to the US for his master's program. He was 22, didn't know how to cook. My mom's like, you need to learn some vegetarian dishes so that you can cook for yourself. And this was one of the first dishes that she taught him. So this dish has butter in it. You don't cook with oil, you cook with butter. You could use salted or unsalted. Um, you can even use vegan butter. I've tried vegan butter as well. Tastes amazing. So you can actually make this dish vegan too. Uh, so I'll just put the camera down so folks can see it. So I'm just adding the butter. In the pan. And if you have any questions about the recipe, please feel free to ask. So we'll take the butter, and next we'll take onions. You could use any onion of your preference, white onions, or even yellow onions, red onions. It doesn't matter. And we'll sweat the onions for a couple of minutes till it's light golden brown in color. I'm cooking on a portable stove, so it's just taking a tad bit longer. Next, you want to add this paste that I made. It's a garlic, red chili powder, and salt paste. I used a mortar and pestle to sort of make it into a paste, and that's what I'm going to add into this mixture. You can see the color already changing. My eyes are burning with the onions. Next, we'll add finely chopped bell peppers. Again, you can add red, yellow, it's to your discretion, but the red and yellow will make the bhaji a little bit more sweeter. So it just depends on your taste. I had green today in my fridge, and that's what I'm adding. Already smell it. It's smelling amazing. Okay. Next, we'll add tomatoes that I pureed. And we'll add a couple tablespoons of tomato paste. It gives a good depth of flavor to the dish. This is something that my grandma taught me. You can see the color changing. Next, we'll add the Pav Bhaji masala. I've made this recipe like a million times, so I pretty much can eyeball the whole recipe. You can add more depending upon your taste. Once the dish is finally made, and then you can taste it and see if you need to add a little bit more. That's the beauty of Indian cooking or Indian savory cooking, where you can just taste, and depending upon your taste, you can add as you go along. So you can see this paste is coming up pretty nicely. I don't add salt because I'd added salt as part of the garlic red chili powder salt paste that I made in the mortar pesto. So I don't add any salt. I'll taste test it after the dish is made and see if any further salt is required or not. This is looking pretty good. I'm gonna use like a potato masher to make it a bit tasty. Next, we'll add this mixture that I had pre-boiled and not pureed it, but mashed it up just a point before the puree. And it's got potatoes, peas, carrots, and cauliflower. At this point, you have to be careful because the dish starts splattering. So you want to lower the temperature slightly so that it doesn't splatter on you. I had reserved some water from boiling the vegetables. And of course, it's got a lot of vitamins. So I'm going to add that to thin out the consistency a bit. This dish can be made start to finish like in 20 minutes once you have everything laid out. And my biggest tip for cooking is always mise en place. Make sure that you have everything laid out, all the ingredients laid out prior to you starting cooking so you don't forget anything. So you can see that's the consistency of the bhaji. I'm gonna mash it a little bit more because I see like a few big chunks of potato in it. We're gonna take a squeeze of lime because we want to have a tang. You can see it's already splattering. And then finally cilantro. Lots of cilantro. And I'm gonna give it a taste test. Just to be sure that the masala is enough, the salt is enough. Needs a bit of salt. And this masala. And you just let this cook for about 3-4 minutes. And that's it, it's done. It's really that easy. I'm gonna take another spoon. Try it again. Perfect. The seasoning is perfect. We let this go for a couple minutes, and then we'll make the pav. Any questions about the recipe?
Yeah, does anyone have any questions about the recipe itself so far? The only question we have pending here is any recipe recommendations from the book for summer. I assume since you're making this and it is summer, this would be a good one.
Yeah, I have a lot of recipes for summer, and I'll point those out. I'm gonna take this off the stove because it's done, and that's what it looks like. And we'll make the this is the pav, and I get it from the Indian grocery store, but you could even use the Hawaiian rolls that you get at the grocery store. They're super soft and squishy. Just gonna add like a tad bit butter inside and on the outside. If you don't want butter, you don't even have to put butter, just toast it and have it with that. Another option is that I like with this bhaji is sourdough. Sourdough tastes fantastic with the bhaji. The recipe in the cookbook is essentially I make a shaved heirloom carrot salad and I put that on top of the bhaji, on top of the pav. And the combination is just fantastic because you get like the savory from the pav bhaji and then you get the sweetness from the shaved carrots. And the combination is just truly wonderful. So I'm just waiting for it to become a little bit light brown in color, and then it's ready to eat. My kids love this dish. Sorry, go ahead, Mark.
Oh, I was just gonna ask, is the recipe for the carrots, is that in the book kind of next to this one as well?
Oh, it's part of this recipe.
Part of the whole recipe.
I just didn't make it today, but you can make it or not make it. That's the full fluidity and fun of Indian cooking. It's very fluid, like you do as you please.
Yeah, perfect. I love that.
So you can see it's browning up quite nicely. And you want to brown the back of it as well. Just a tad bit. I'm ready to plate it. Just a tad bit more cilantro, put a squeeze of lime, some raw onions, and that's it. This dish is done. So that's what it looks like. Final product.
Fantastic. Doesn't seem like there's too many steps and very quick to make.
It's very quick.
Yeah.
Just takes like 15-20 minutes and dinner's ready.
Oh,
There's a
fantastic.
little bit of pre-prep of boiling the vegetables, but it's just boiling vegetables. I usually do it in a pressure cooker. If you don't have a pressure cooker, you can just boil it on the stove in a pot with water, cover it up, and just let it boil for about 30 minutes. Basically, you want the potatoes to be cooked through. So if you
Mhm.
cut the potatoes in smaller pieces, which is a great tip, like if you cut the potato in smaller pieces, it'll just cook faster.
And are you cooking everything all together? Are you putting those vegetables in at different times? Since
Yeah.
they'll cook at different amounts. Okay.
Yeah, because you don't want to you don't want to boil bell peppers because they'll just become really mushy. You want that slight crunch from the bell peppers, which you get when you just cook it with the onions on the stove.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So it's a great dish. It's like a popular street food. You in Mumbai, you get it at every street corner. I grew up eating it since I was a baby, and I still love it. I never get tired of it.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So any questions about the specific recipe or anything? There are, don't be shy, everyone. There are two questions right now, not specific to the recipe, but like I asked before.
Oh, yes.
Any other summer recipes?
I have lots of summer recipes.
Okay.
Um, I have the first page filled with like fruits, the summer
Ah,
fruits. Um, but I have this, I love this recipe. It's vegan, and whoever's made it has loved it. It's one of the popular recipes from the cookbook. It's inspired by African cooking, actually. It's sort of like a coconut peanut stew. It's got peanuts, it's got coconut, um, cream in it. It's corn on the cob in coconut curry. Corn is in season right now, and this is one dish to make. It's amazing. Everyone loves it. Have it with some naan. And again, another very easy recipe to make. You can make it within 30 minutes, and you have dinner on the table.
fantastic.
I
Um,
have some other veg recipes that I can
yeah,
point out. Oh, yeah. Squash blossom tacos. I love squash blossoms, huge fan of squash blossoms. They're basically squash blossoms are zucchini flowers, essentially. So when you plant zucchinis, the flowers that come out of the zucchini is essentially the
mhm.
squash blossoms. So I make tacos with that. Another fantastic recipe. You get squash blossoms at the farmer's market, readily available. So it's a great recipe, another great recipe.
Fantastic. Um, and I'm sorry to say to all of our wonderful Mountain View Public Library patrons that we do have your book in the stacks when it is not checked out, and there are currently 4 people on the wait list. I just checked, so but you can buy it, I'm sure, from your local bookstores or online. We can get back to some information about that, I think, at the end, so people really remember that. You can always put it on reserve too. Um, Another question here. Do you recommend a specific brand of cooking dishes?
Cooking dishes. Uh, I've used Calphalon. I've used Hexclad. I've used Artplace as well. So I have like a series of pots and pans that I use. Uh, but I'm not like specific about anything. If it works for me, it's about cooking. So it's about the dish, and these brands have worked for me so far. So that's what I use.
There you go. And Judy, I think you raised your hand. I don't know if that was you meant to do that. If you want to put something in the chat, or I can allow you to talk.
Well, hello?
Hi,
Can you
yes.
Hi.
Um, do you, are there other ways to eat the dish you made, like with rice or other things like that?
Typically, it's not eaten with rice, but you can just eat it by itself. Is it because of like gluten allergies or? Uh,
Um, Not really. Just
no, okay.
wondering.
The reason I was asking is because I've actually, how do I explain this? So in India, you get it here too. You get millet flour. So I make sort of like tortillas with millet flour. And in between, I was not eating bread. So, and I love this bhaji a lot. Like, I love it a lot. I'll just eat it by itself. But just to have like that bread component, I made these millet flour tortillas. and they turned out fantastic. And it tasted really good with the bhaji. So that's another option too. I've never tried it with rice, but you know, you never say never.
If you had any follow-up, just go ahead and raise your hand again, Judy, and I can give you permission to talk again. Any other questions? I have some myself, if not.
There's another
Okay.
recipe that I wanted to point out.
Oh yeah, please.
Which is a summer recipe. It's eggplants. It's stuffed eggplants. It's stuffed with peanuts and chickpea flour. Again, another vegan dish. Super easy, under 30 minutes, and a fantastic dish. Very Gujarati, very from my culture. And it's, excuse me, it's like made with peanuts and chickpea flour. It's a beautiful dish. One to try.
So that kind of leads right into this next question. What's your favorite Gujarati food inspired recipe? Bless you.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one. Thank you for asking that, because I do have one, which is very dear to me. Give me a second. I will go right to that recipe. Okay. So in Gujarati cuisine, we make these stuffed fried balls. They're called kachoris. And we stuff it with, again, there are no spices in it or just garam masala in it, but we stuff it with peas, green peas. In the spring, green peas are, flourishing. Peas is, they come out in springtime. And I love to make this dish during that time. So it's a spring matar. Matar is peas. So it's a spring pea galette that I make. So I use that filling to make little galettes, like individual portion size, and they're fun. They're fun to make, fun to eat. You have it with like the date tamarind chutney, the cilantro chutney, makes for a very fantastic combination. And I know it's in the appetizer section, but honestly, we just eat it for dinner with some salad. So good.
Fantastic. Here we have from Annalisa, any ideas of Indian-inspired breakfasts? Thank you very much.
Oh, yeah, I do. I have a whole breakfast chapter, and this is one of, it's a super easy dish. You can have it for breakfast, lunch, dinner, snack, whatever you want to, whenever you want to. It's a chickpea pancake, almost like a pancake, made with chickpeas and some spices. And I have it with the salad, which I've made here. It's just like a carrot, red cabbage salad. I put it together in 5 minutes. Super easy to make. Have it with cilantro chutney and some ketchup. That's how I grew up eating it. And it's really easy. Very easy dish. Again, they're like crepes. They're like flat. And again, very easy to make, super delicious, filled with protein, and it's vegan as well.
Oh, fantastic. Do you have any other questions from the audience? One thing I was curious about watching you cook just now, you mentioned that you've made this dish so many times, you just know how much of whatever ingredient go in. You don't have to kind of measure out the tablespoon exactly. But when you're writing the cookbook, I'm sure there's a lot of recipes that were like that you had to go, okay, well, what is this? What would be the right amount, not eyeballed, but written down that you'd have to know? Was that difficult at all to kind of like restrict yourself to the specifics?
It was very difficult. Actually, that was when you asked about did you have difficulty in writing the cookbook? That was a very difficult one. Because Indian cooking is more like the way my mom taught me, and I talk about it in the cookbook, is a little bit of this, a little bit of that, just add this much, just a pinch of this. And I'm like, Mommy, you're not giving me measurements. So, how do you want me to make this? And she's like, just keep adding and then taste it and then see if something is less and then add more. I was like, okay. And that's how I grew up learning cooking. So when I had to write the recipes, it was a bit challenging, but because I had my blog, I've had my blog since 2017, and I've been measuring for that. So it was sort of like a practice already that I had for the cooking, for the measurements. So it was a good practice, but it was still hard. Like it never gets easy. Yeah.
Yeah. I was talking with my partner. I cook a lot of the dinners at our home, and she was trying to learn some techniques from me. And she's like, "Well, how much are you putting in of that?" And I said, as much as is needed. We'll put in this much, and then if it doesn't taste right, we'll put in a little more.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
the best part about savory cooking. I feel like
yeah,
how wrong can you go?
yeah.
I always wonder how wrong can you go? Because it's just if you follow the recipe, you add the spices. If you feel it's less for you, add a little bit more. I like foods a little bit more spicy. So you can always add more or not add that much if you don't
Mhm.
want to.
Yeah, a little bit at a time, and kind of keep
Yeah,
going.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
perfect.
Good.
Well, Judy asks, and you kind of covered some of this before, but maybe there might be some more you would add to it. What are the Indian staples that you'd recommend having on hand?
That's a great question. So, of course, the spices
Mhm.
and the whole spices as well. That's another one. And I actually have a section in my cookbook which has some of the staples that I talk about. Um, I have a few lentil dishes in my cookbook. So if you are into eating lentils and you love them, there's a whole section in my cookbook which shows all the different lentils I've used in the cookbook.
Mm.
Um, and these are all available at the Indian store. You can go buy them. I have the name written as well, so it becomes easier for you to find them as well. So those are some of the staples because we eat a lot of lentils. Being vegetarian, that's where it's one of my protein sources. So we do eat a lot of lentils. So I have these on hand at all times.
Mhm. And they all serve they all function a slightly different way. Some of them hold up a little better than others, and
Yeah,
yeah, like each recipe uses a different kind of lentil. Yeah,
yeah, yeah. I mean, I love lentils and
yeah.
especially the mung. I make sprouts out of it, uh,
Mm.
and it's a great snack. I have a sprout recipe too in my cookbook, which is great. Oh, there's another recipe I would like to point out, which
Oh
is
yeah,
the
please.
first one that my mom taught me uh, was a potato curry.
Mm.
Super delicious. It is so easy. It's like a one pot wonder. You just put everything into the pot and just let it cook, and that's it. And have it with some naan or rice or have it by itself. It's so delicious. It's just potatoes.
Yeah,
Carb-rich dish, but it's so delicious. One to
that's
try.
fantastic. Yeah, yeah, fantastic. So you said you've had a blog since 2017. Is that correct?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So did you pull a lot of recipes from that, or did you like how that really influenced the cookbook, or did you kind of go out on a limb for some of these and try something new?
I have just probably a fraction. I would say I would have probably like 5 recipes from the blog in the
Mm.
cookbook, but the rest of them are all new. Um, my blog has a lot of my experiments because I love doing fusion cooking. I love making fusion desserts. So I have a lot of fusion desserts on my blog. I love making macarons, so you'll find that on my blog. And if anyone's interested, my blog is thejamlab.co. And I love doing food photography, so it's a way to experiment with my food photography skills and getting better at it. So that's what I do as well. I also am a contributor, a bi-weekly contributor to the SF Chronicle. I have a bi-weekly column called Modern Vegetarian, where I showcase like a seasonal fruit or a seasonal vegetable. So right now it's summer, and I posted a recipe with peaches and heirloom tomatoes, like a fattoush salad with peaches
Mhm.
and heirloom tomatoes with a sumac dressing. It's really good.
Oh, that sounds fantastic.
Yeah.
And I'm just gonna write into the chat here. So it's thejamlab.co, right?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, we'll do that. So check out the blog. Um, and yeah, those, I mean, some of what you showed us before looks really beautiful. Oh, okay, we do have a question here, and I have one as well, but I will let this person speak first. Haven't had a chance to look at the book yet. Any vegan dessert recipes?
Unfortunately, I don't have any vegan dessert recipes, uh, but I'll take that into consideration and maybe develop it for my blog.
Oh, fantastic. So go to the jam lab.co, and you know keep watching, look out for that vegan dessert. Um, So with all the fusion, I mean, it sounds like a lot of when you're growing up and kind of learning to cook, that like that African influence and the Gujarati influence is already there and kind of probably already fusing. When you came to when it comes to California, I'm sure it's not just the produce, but like the kind of style of cooking in California. What's been the easiest to integrate and to fuse, I guess? And what's been the most difficult kind of ingredients or styles of cooking
Um,
from the kind of California style?
I don't think it's been difficult. Like I just get ideas in my head, or when I'm sleeping, believe it or not, I'm sleeping and I get this idea in my head, and I'm like, I hope I remember it till the morning so I can write it down. But I get these ideas, recipe ideas, just from going to the amazing restaurants in the Bay Area, or I get inspired by the produce, the restaurants, and of course, like the huge Mexican influence as well in the cooking. And I have a recipe in my cookbook with huevos, like huevos rancheros, but I have huevos rancheros waffles. Um, and again, my family loves it. It's just made with like corn flour, like masa, which is the corn flour, and then it's got jalapenos, it's got bell peppers, onions in the batter itself. Make these waffles with like a sunny side up, some chipotle potatoes, roasted chipotle potatoes, some roasted salsa. So good. It's really good. But that's how I've like put that into my cookbook, because I've lived here now for about 25 years in this country, and the influence shows in my cookbook with all the beautiful produce and just the dishes I've gotten inspiration from.
Yeah, so you're kind of always your mind's always open to how these different flavors could combine in new and
Yeah,
interesting ways. And
yeah,
yeah, it's fantastic.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, is there anything else you'd like to share with us from the cookbook, or maybe read a little bit?
Yeah, like another fusion California. I just wanted to give an idea. Is this pot de creme, which is
Hmm.
typically French. You get it in the Bay Area restaurants, but I just give it my own twist and made like a fennel pot de creme with like poached apricots, and then there's pistachios, rose petals, and like a little bit of whipped cream on the top. So all the flavors gel really well together. So this is like an example of very like it's got the Indian touch with the fennel seeds, but then it's got the California touch with the apricots, poached apricots. So
And
uh,
it's a
that's
that's
how I bring
interesting.
in the fusion aspect of it.
Yeah, yeah, that sounds delicious.
Thank you.
We have a question here. Is there a masala chai recipe in your book?
Yes, there is. And there is actually, yeah, I wanted to explain a little bit about that. So I make a chai masala, which is, um, um, sorry, I'll just see. Oh, yeah. Yeah. So I have a chai masala recipe, which is essentially 5, 6 ingredients that you grind in a mixer, in a high-speed blender, and then you just store it. You can store it for like 6 months to 8 months. It stays really good if it lasts that long, that is, because I have a cup of chai every morning, and this is the only chai masala that I make. And lots of folks have made this recipe and they've loved it. Um, and I have a masala chai recipe which uses the chai masala in it.
Mhm.
And it's really good. And I put like ginger in it, fresh ginger, freshly grated ginger. It all depends on my mood. Some days I'll add lemongrass to it, and it gives great flavor. Sometimes I'll take mint from my garden and put it in the chai. So it just depends on my mood, but you can make it to your liking. Seriously, like you can just be innovative and do whatever you want with it to your
So
liking.
again, a very flowing, kind of open type of recipe. We can really just
Yeah.
add whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, I
Oh,
add the
cool.
chai masala, but then on top of that, I'll add fresh ingredients. Could be lemongrass, mint. My aunt adds, my mom's sister, she adds saffron to the chai.
Mm.
Uh, and I do that sometimes, and it really gives a great floral flavor to it.
Yeah, I would imagine.
Yeah.
Yeah, fantastic. Do we have any other questions from the audience? Um, If you do, please go ahead and send them in here. Either raise your hand, I can let you talk, or send it into the Q&A. But in the meantime, I'd just like to thank everyone for coming. I do realize that I hit the record button a little late, so I'd just like to thank you, Amisha, again for coming and showing us how to cook this wonderful dish and answering some questions and just being with us tonight. And we'd like to thank all the participants for joining us for the event here to the Mountain View Public Library, and again, thank the Friends of the Mountain View Public Library for their support.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. This was fantastic. Thank you to the participants as well for joining me today. And you could actually get the cookbook at Books Inc. in Mountain View. And whenever I'm in Mountain View, I go there and sign books. Whenever I'm there and they have the copy, I'm like, oh, can I sign the cookbook? And you may find a signed copy there too.
Hey, there you go. Fantastic.
Yeah.
So check out the column, which comes out how often? With
It's
the
bi-weekly, so it's every 2 weeks. Modern Vegetarian in SF Chronicle. I've been doing it for about a couple years and I love it. I love sharing recipes and how to use the different produce from our beautiful state.
Beautiful. So check out the column, check out the blog, thejamlab.co. Check out the book, buy it from Books Inc. Become the 5th person on the wait list. And hopefully it'll come soon, but maybe we can more people on the wait list means we'll buy another copy. So, that's a little tip for all of you out there. Don't neglect the wait list, put it on the wait list, go get your own copy as well. Why not? And thank you so much for joining us. Just time, let me see. We got one last question here. Thank you so much. I enjoy learning new recipes and I'm looking forward to trying Amisha's. Thank you, Kathy. That's from Kathy.
Oh, thank you so much. Thanks.
Okay. Well, thank you, everyone. Yeah. Any last piece of advice for us getting started with cooking?
I'll say like vegetarian cooking is not boring. Vegetarian cooking is fun. It's flavorful. Indian cooking is flavorful. Try regional cooking. India has so many different regions. I'm just focusing on one part of the region, which is Gujarat, but India has so many beautiful regions. So celebrate the food, enjoy the different ingredients. We are lucky to be in the Bay Area because Bay Area has so many different regional Indian foods available in restaurants too. But if you want to cook at home, buy the cookbook, Mumbai Modern. I'm going to be my own marketing person.
Perfect.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Great. I think on that note, it was a perfect note to end it. So thank you so much. And have a good night. Have a good night, everyone.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Mark. Bye-bye.